2023 has been a huge year for me as a content creator, growing from just under 1,000 followers on TikTok to about 6,000. That's huge for me, and I want to thank everyone who joined me for this trip, and I also wanted to take some time to look back at how the year has gone. I got to improve my skills a lot as a balloonist, in video editing, in thumbnails, and in understanding my niche. There's a lot of people who make balloon animals on this site, but no one else does characters from them. That's just a me thing. At the start of the year, I was really not seeing a lot of people liking my work. I was considering whether it was still worth my time to keep making these until I had my first hit video, Eggy John. I remember when I posted him back in April and being at work when it blew up. I was really blown away by how many people love my work and appreciate what I make. While Eggy John has to be my most classic video, it isn't the one that you guys like the most. No, my most viewed video on TikTok was actually Emo from Identity V. Emo being that popular blew me away since I had never heard of Identity V until I was asked to make him. While some of my other highly viewed content like the Omori, Homestuck, and Friday Night Funkin' were things that I expected people to want to see, I have never guessed that Identity V and OnStars would become content mainstays. But as you may know, TikTok is not my only platform. I'm also on YouTube, Instagram, and Tumblr, and these platforms have different preferences. On YouTube, people actually really like the beheadings for Robespierre and Kaworu. For little skits like that just accompanied characters where it made sense, like Robespierre and Kaworu, this was very surprising. I never planned to become Live Leak when I started doing this, but things just happen. Tumblr also lets you know what your top content is for the year, and for that platform it was the Palestinian flag. I was actually really nervous about this one, since I like the idea that my balloon content is just a nice piece of entertainment and not political art. I guess the personal is political and the political is personal, but these are also just balloons. I don't want my politics to be that important to the work. While these were my most popular videos, they weren't the most difficult things to make for me. A lot of the time, the things that you put the most effort into are the least appreciated, so I want to take a moment to acknowledge some things that I've made that have just made me better at balloons. First is the horseshoe crowd I made back in January. This was something I made for someone at my old job. And while it was not the most impressive project that I've done, it was the first really hard balloon animal that I made. I also want to acknowledge the robin that I made back in June. This was less a technical achievement for doing something with a lot of twists and moving parts, but was a much more skillful balloon than many of the other things I've made. Usually when making something, I have the choice of making an extremely detailed, crowded creature that can be too busy to recognize what it is, or something that's more minimalistic and doesn't stand out. And I feel like the robin here manages to have a lot of good detail and avoid overcrowding. Definitely something I'm proud of. Last but not least, I want to acknowledge the Yoshi that I also made in June. This was the first time that I used normal balloons and twisted them for part of the structure, and the technique that I used for this is the basis for most of the hats that I make now. The Yoshi may not have been the hardest thing I've made, but it has made me a better artist, and I'm very glad to have done it. So you may be wondering what's next for Shaq's Balloon Shack as we move into 2024. Well, there's the obvious. I plan to keep making more of the balloon animals that you came here for. More OnStars, more miscellaneous Twinkcore, more Team Fortress 2. But I've also been experimenting with some more things recently. You may remember the donut, and those of you in the know may know that making a donut is a classic introduction to Blender, and I plan to do more Blender stuff as I keep moving forward. But, make no mistake here, I'm here for balloons. In the shack. You also may have seen me experiment a little bit with making effects for TikTok, as just a couple weeks ago I made an effect that has a dog spin above your head. I'm not sure how much people want to see things like that, where I'm reaching outside of my box to do something that would be more mainstream, but if you do want to see it, make sure to let me know. Most of the balloon animals that I make would work well for something like this, and I think it would be cool. And that's 2023. I hope that your 2024 is prosperous and blessed, and I thank everyone that's sticking around for sharing with me.